Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No,
You're awesome.
no.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we normally sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. And I say normally because this week I do not have a guest. We'll get to that in a second. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at RealAwesomePod. You can also find us on awesomepodcast.com, coretemparts.com, because we're part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. You can email us at awesome@crudehumorstudios.com. You can snail mail us at everythingisawesome, P.O. Box 177 in Fairless Hills, PA 19030. And you can also message us on all the social medias or whatnot. Call us at 267-223-4965. Leave a voicemail. So I tried to, and I'm gonna call him out. I'm going to call Ami Khan out. I tried to get Ami on the show for this week's episode. I've been trying to book her for a while. And yes, that's right. I'm calling her out because whatever. It's all fun and games, really, at the end of the day. I don't care. I know she's busy doing some stuff with Into the Film out west there. So I'm sure rehearsals and whatnot have been keeping her busy. We were at one point supposed to record Monday or Tuesday night, but I never heard back. So hopefully we'll get me on the line sooner rather than later, and we'll chat all things Hollywood and being an actress and whatnot. Then as a backup, I talked to BK Mullen. I believe Brian, if I remember correctly, is his first name. But he is a podcaster from Philly here. He did a live show at the Philadelphia Podcast Fest at Tattooed Mom on the weekend that I happened to be managing the events. I believe it was on Saturday night. And great podcast. And you know, he called me out from the audience because I was wearing my Eagles hat. And mentioned that we basically were the same person, and he just seems like a funny dude, and we both basically kind of fell asleep taking care of our kids and putting our kids to bed before we got it recorded. So I unfortunately wasn't able to get a guest on for this week again. Last week we had Mike. This week I dropped the ball again, but so apologies. But in lieu of doing something with Mike, I decided to air an episode. For those that don't know, I also do another show called the Zombcast. Me and Steve from Australia, he's part of the Saturday Detention podcast. We sit down and we talk about The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, Ash versus the Evil Dead, horror, anything that's horror related, really. And this episode that you're going to listen to is us recapping the first season of Fear the Walking Dead. We're in the middle of trying to play catch up with our podcast, because it's normally a bi-weekly podcast, but if we go weekly, we have a real shot of hitting 100 episodes by the time the 100th episode of The Walking Dead airs in October. So I thought it would just be neat to hit first for both our podcast, which was originally me, Matthew, and Nicholas, to talk about The Walking Dead. Thought it'd be neat if we both hit 100 episodes at the same time. So here is our first episode that delves into the Fear the Walking Dead series. If you're interested in that, the Zombcast is part of the That's Entertainment podcast network. You can find all our Zombcast episodes on thatentertains.com/network, along with some other great shows. Check it all out. That's all I want to leave you with. We are, for Everything is Awesome, we are going to be getting Ami Khan. We're going to be getting Brian on the show. We're going to be doing regular interviews again. Summer is a really busy month, especially now that I've taken on some responsibility for the Philadelphia Podcast Fest. So it ends up being a really busy month for me. We did a couple vacations this summer, so it was really hard to sit down and do some interviews. I want to try to in next spring have a better catalog, backlog recorded so that we don't have to deal with this. In a couple of days here, we are going to be remembering Robin Williams. Every year on August 11th, the anniversary of his death, I like to sit down and do a podcast and sit around and talk about Robin Williams. And this year I finally brought a guest on with me. So you'll listen to that on Friday the 11th. And I hope you enjoy it. It's just our little way of paying our respects to Robin Williams, because there is no other man like him. Anyway, you won't hear me on the other end. So thanks for listening to the show. Make sure you check out all the shows on the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. Chat with me on Twitter at @ThatNerdyKev. That's where I do most of my tweeting and twatting. Call us at 267-223-4965 and leave your feedback. Snail mail us pictures of zombies riding dogs to Everything is Awesome, P.O. Box 177 in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, 19030. Let's kick it to me and Steve in the past, where they're sitting around and talking about Fear of the Walking Dead, Season 1, right here on awesomepodcast.com.
The Zombcast is part of That's Entertainment Podcast Network. Check out our other shows, like the Last Capaldi Podcast and Once Upon a Wine on thatentertains.com/network.
Should have probably grabbed another bottle of water. Oh, sweet. There's one right in front of me. Don't know how old it is, but I'll take it. I'll drink it. Welcome to this week's edition of the Zombcast. I'm your host, Kev.
And I am the other guy, Steve.
And this is a show where we sit around and talk some dead. And I guess if you look at our news feed, it's going to look like we came out weekly and on time if you're listening to this in the future. However, for present day listeners, we apologize because various things have prevented us from recording. I think there were vacations. I think there were sicknesses. I think there were internet outages. There were various things that prevented us from getting together to record. So I've been releasing them sporadically. And just dating them their actual release date because I'm a cheater. That's what I do. I cheat the system. I make it look like we do things on time.
Well, man, as the great Jesse Ventura once said, win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat.
Yes. At the end of the day, if I equate my life to wrestling, as you do, I am a heel. I might be the Philly heel, the kind of heel that people love, but I'm a heel.
Yeah, I'm more Doink the Clown.
I would equate myself to probably like DX era Shawn Michaels.
Well, if you're going to be anyone, be Shawn Michaels.
Dude, when I used to wrestle, I started out in the backyard. I feel like I can tell this story because I haven't told it on the Zombcast yet. I've probably told it on my other show a million times. But we started out in the backyard. Kids, I'm not going to tell you not to wrestle in the backyard. Just be careful. Be smart. Don't be idiots. Don't go through a flaming table like we did. I debuted in the backyard as Heartbreak Kev. Had the HBK tights, red tights with the white heartbreaks on them. Had the zebra print armbands that he wore. Had the heart-shaped glasses. And had the motorcycle helmet that he wore. Not helmet, motorcycle hat that he wore. That was had the zebra print on the top. Do you remember that that zebra print hat he had?
This is the era of wrestling. This is.
Yeah.
This is where everything happened, man. And I'm just hoping that at some point in this, you're going to mention the fact that you have video of this, which you can share online with everyone.
I don't know if I have video of me in my backyard days. I have DVDs of me in my professional days. But I never wrestled as Heartbreak Kev in my professional days. I wrestled as a character named Steel Tip.
This is all news to me. I had no idea that any of
Oh,
this
really?
was going on. No idea, man. And I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm massive on wrestling, and I'm just finding out that my co-host spent some time in the square circle.
I was in the square circle. I don't know. Do you guys know of Chikara out there?
I have to. I can't get it on the TV. I have to go through means to find it on the computer.
So do you know Reckless Youth Tom Carter?
Yeah.
King of the Indie. Yeah, he trains me.
Oh, this is insane. We're going to have to do a wrestling podcast, man. This is insane.
Yeah, I was trained by one Reckless Youth Tom Carter. He's the one that told me that I should stop doing the high fly stuff because I wasn't really built for it, aka I wasn't talented for it. I should stick to more methodical wrestling. He said, "You know what? You remind me of a young Bret Hart," and I was like, "What?" And I don't know if he said that with irony, because I was not that good. I was definitely not as good as Bret. I was. I mean, if Bret Hart is the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, I was the mediocre there guy. That ever will be. I was, you know, if he was 10 out of 10, I was probably 5 out of 10, you know?
It doesn't matter, man. You just take it. You just take it and you run with it.
Well, that's when I started doing the sharpshooter, when he told me that.
As soon as we finish up, I'm hitting Google and I'm seeing what I can find.
There's nothing. Steel Tip is not on the internet anywhere. At all. Like I only wrestled locally. I never really traveled or anything. So like I live in this little township called Falls Township, and I never traveled. I didn't take it as far as I could have. My dream was never, like, I never said that. Well, actually, I think I did say it, but my dream wasn't to get to the WWE. When I was a kid, my dream was to wrestle professionally, and to me, that was just wrestling in front of a crowd. And I did that pretty early on in my quote unquote wrestling career. I never really, and I could have, but I think I have this thing with like not, I don't want to say commitment, like, but with projects, like fulfilling a project to the very end. I usually don't do, and I never really committed myself. I had a hard time saying, let me leave this job that at the time paid really well. A keen $40,000 a year is what I thought was really well back then. And I guess it's not terrible, but you know, as a 21-year-old or 20, well, I was getting trained at like 24 years old probably. I did not want to leave that comfort zone of a full-time gig to dive into training 7 days a week and travel 7 days a week and whatnot.
Oh, this could be a very different podcast if you had.
Yeah. There's probably videos and pictures out there that you might be able to dig up. And I have always said that I do want to upload those videos that I do have to the interwebs, just to have them up there.
I'm going to be digging. I'm going to be digging.
Yeah. Falls Township Wrestling is probably a big one that you want to search for. But I think anything that I've found online is like stuff from our backyard days. So it's not really, it's the pre-Reckless era of FTW, Falls Township Wrestling. I'll try to. I have the DVDs in my shed. I'll have to pull them out and see if I can get them converted to digital and upload them.
Absolutely. Now, if people want to send me pictures of Wrestling Kev riding dogs, where can they do that?
They can send pictures of Wrestling Kev riding dogs to the Zombcast at P.O. Box 177 in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania 19030, the United States of America, if you're sending them internationally. If you don't want to snail mail them to us because you are a digital artist, you can email us at zombcast@crudehumorstudios.com. If you want to call in and give us your best wrestling impersonation. I would love to hear like either a Hulk Hogan or a Stone Cold or even a Shawn Michaels impersonator. You can call us at 267-223-4965. If you also want to utilize those means of communication to talk Walking Dead or horror with us, feel free, because this is the Zombcast, not WrestleCast. Feel free to do all that. You can also find us on Twitter at the Zombcast. Facebook, we're on facebook.com/the Zombcast, and you can find us on thatentertains.com/network as a podcast.
And if one of these come through, I get dibs on the first one.
Wrestler Kev.
Wrestling Kev, right?
That's fine. I'll have to maybe on this episode image. I have pictures from the last time I wrestled. The last time I wrestled, I was going bald, so I had a shaved head. I had my Abe Lincoln chin strap of a beard. And I was wearing, so I wrestled as steel tip. So my outfit for my very last match, which was approximately 8 years ago, was, the MVP outfit, where it was the one, like a singlet with long sleeves.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I had that, except it was all silver. It was spacesuit silver. And it had this cool little logo on the back, and then the Pittsburgh Steeler diamonds on my chest. Because I was steel tip. I was from the city of steel, the city of champions, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
This is insane, man. I cannot believe this is only just coming up now. We've done, I don't know how many episodes. We've spoken on Twitter a fair bit. You've been on the if I had have known this, the whole episode of Nerd Gym would have just been throwing wrestling questions. It would have been a completely different show, man. Completely different. So
it's
I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. I could go on about this all day, but we do have to talk. This week we are actually talking some Dead.
Yes.
We're back to the Dead.
We actually are. Hold on one second. There's an ant on my microphone. Let me flick him off. Okay, he's gone. Or she. Let's not be judgmental here.
We're equal opportunity podcasters here.
Yeah. So we are going to talk some Dead this week, as you said. We are, I guess in real time, we're a little behind where I wanted to be, but it's all going to work itself out. We're talking season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead. Now I want to shoot straight with you, Steve. I have only watched the first 3 episodes of season 1 because I waited until this morning to start watching it. But now, as it turns out, the real reason is because I discovered 13 Reasons Why. And I just fell in love with that show and started watching that show. The other reason that I'm going to try to make sound more legitimate is that I can't find anywhere to watch Fear the Walking Dead except for Hulu. So I just discovered that today, so I signed up for a free trial of Hulu today, which, let me tell you, I have some gears to grind about Hulu. I don't understand why there is 17 commercial breaks I'm not paying anything because it's a trial, but when I'm eventually supposed to pay $7.99 a month. That is BS.
Yeah. But you still get commercial breaks.
Yeah, I'm paying money to get commercials. I don't think that's fair.
I've got the first 2 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead on demand with my provider, and they are showing. They've started showing season 3, and I get no adverts whatsoever.
You know what? I don't know, because I looked on demand for me. I have Verizon Fios, and when I looked on demand through my phone app, it said I had to buy it. But I wonder if I sit at my TV and hit watch it from there if it's free. Regardless, but I'll tell you what, I don't think that's going to affect the discussion for Fear the Walking Dead that we're going to have today, because I had actually watched this season prior to us even doing this podcast. So
you've already seen the season one?
Yes, I've seen the season once. I just wanted to refresh season. Now, season 2, I have not seen yet at all. But season 1, I have seen in its entirety already, so I know the basis of the story. And I'm kind of glad we went on a tangent, because I don't think that there's an hour's worth of conversation here. I guess I'll take the charge and just give a general overview of what I think Fear the Walking Dead is. Despite what I just said, I think Fear the Walking Dead season 1 is actually kind of good. I enjoyed it, but it's definitely not The Walking Dead. It's what I love about it is that it brings the fear of the zombies back that we haven't had in The Walking Dead since probably season 2 or 3. But what I hate about it is I think I can tell you some character names, but that's only because I watched episodes today. It suffers from not having characters I care about, like The Walking Dead, and maybe that's not fair because we're only giving them a couple episodes so far. But I don't know if maybe the comic book had something to do with me caring about those characters ahead of time with The Walking Dead, but I don't know, because my fiance, she connects with the Walking Dead characters. She's never read a comic book, for Walking Dead in her life. And she feels the same way when it comes to the Fear of the Walking Dead, is that we both watched the first season. We tried to give the second season a go. We just didn't have that connection to the characters.
Yep.
And that's, I think, important in this universe.
So you haven't seen any of season 2 yet?
I did watch the pilot when it first aired, but I have not seen any of season 2 since that pilot episode. Not the pilot episode, but since the premiere episode.
Okay, well, I am just about to hit the mid-season break of season 2. So I'm about halfway through the season with season 2. Now, as far as the first season goes, let me just talk about the first episode, and then I'll give you my overall feelings on it. It took me 3 sittings to get through the first episode.
Interesting.
I sat down, started to watch it. I felt that they kind of felt like they were trying to surprise us with things that we already knew. Like, in the first episode, when the young guy, Nick, runs out of the church because he finds his girlfriend, she's been turned, but of course he doesn't know she's turned at this point, and she's eating someone, and he runs from the church. And you run outside, and he gets hit by a car, and we then pull back to this fantastic shot of LA with planes flying overhead and the city just going as normal, almost as if we were supposed to be shocked and surprised by this. But everyone knew going into this that this was set in the very first days of the outbreak. And this first episode kept doing that for me. It was like, I already know all of these things that you're showing me. I already know what's going on here. Okay, I know what this is going to be. And they took it very slowly. One of the things I did enjoy is they took it very slowly with the reveal of the walkers.
Yes.
Which they don't call walkers in this show, which, with a nice little touch, I thought, rather than have it be an overall common term, they still just refer to them as the dead.
Mm-hmm.
But the pace of it was way too slow for someone who, at that stage, I'd say, we would have been in season 6 of Walking Dead?
I believe season 6.
Yeah, so you're dealing with people who have got 5 seasons worth of the show already under their belt, but you're almost doing the slow reveal, and it came across as boring.
Oh wow! See, I didn't. When it came to that kind of stuff, I actually kind of really enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of. And I do understand where you're coming from. I do see it, but I don't know. I actually kind of dug. It was, it was the characters. they had a hard job to try to sell these characters as characters I care about, like I do Rick and Michonne and Daryl and all those other characters at the time, Glenn and Abraham and all that. Those little callbacks that they had, like we'll go with the opening scene since we mentioned that directly already. Like, I love how to me it was quite obvious that Nick did not understand what was going on when he saw his girlfriend had turned, and for me it wasn't like they were trying to like fake us out. To me it seemed like they were trying to make us see if maybe Nick would look up and then all of a sudden the world had gone to shit overnight or something like that. And then he got hit by the car and it pulled out, and we see that it's just, that literally this is probably, day 1 or 2 of whatever happened to cause the dead to rise. And I don't know, there was because I saw that scene this afternoon, I think is when I started watching on my lunch break, and I actually, and I don't know how I felt the first time around, but I actually kind of dug it. Seeing it this time around, I really enjoyed it.
I thought the idea of it was good. I thought that the way that they tried to pull it off just didn't work for me. I didn't feel any kind of like any wow factor to it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. We then spend most of the rest of the episode following around Nick, who is in this episode he's a full blown junkie. He's so they're using that confusion to try and say to people, well, maybe it's not going on, maybe it's a paranoia thing. And you know how we mentioned that we really enjoyed that with Get Out. Like, one of the things we Get Out that was fantastic was there were several points where the guy was actually turning around and going, well, is this all in my head? Is this all in my paranoia? But I didn't see the need for the build-up when we already know from 5 seasons of The Walking Dead that this isn't a paranoia. It's not in his head. He's not going crazy. It really is happening. But the slow release of everything was really well done. I did like the fact that we weren't suddenly slap bang in the middle of a zombie outbreak. It was happening one person at a time.
Yeah, I'll say that what seems, and I think this is over the course of the first 2 or 3 episodes, it seems like we've maybe had from the beginning of when Nick got hit by that car, maybe 48 to 72 hours has passed, and power starting to fail and whatnot. And I thought that was interesting because in my mind, it doesn't seem like there is that collapse yet. At least in LA, it did not seem like that kind of collapse was happening where we would start losing power, or phones would start going in and out. And I thought that was, I was kind of taken aback by that, and a little, I don't want to say upset, but it was just like, I think I would have stretched that out a little differently. I think that. But the Walker reveals, like, again, what this season was about, and I think there's a reason they called it Fear the Walking Dead. What I really enjoyed about at least this first season is that for the most part, like, they were able to get me to feel that fear of the zombies that we haven't had in The Walking Dead for seasons at this point. And I thought that was really important. Because that's kind of how, like, I mean, the show and the comic book started on that premise of the walkers being the ones that you should be afraid of, and I think it is, I would say that when we first see Rick wake up, we're a couple weeks into the apocalypse, so it's interesting seeing how it all started and not necessarily knowing why yet, but seeing how it started and seeing how quickly everything kind of collapsed. I think a little too quickly in my book, but how quickly it happened.
Well, I was actually thinking that this first season, it wouldn't surprise me if when this season ends is when Rick wakes up. So what we're getting here is we're getting the gaps filled. Because the one thing with this season, which I really, really did enjoy, is when Rick wakes up in the first episode of Walking Dead, everything has already gone to shit. There's no slow build-up. There's just people have gone, people have abandoned the towns, people are running scared, there's walkers all over the place, and we are just in the middle of it. With this show, one of my favourite moments was... well, a good one to point out was the people across the road who were having a birthday party for their kid at one point, and people were cancelling because they were getting sick, and it was just a small build-up of that kind of thing. Then the neighbour who is packing his car, you see that 3 or 4 hours later, the car is only half packed and he's nowhere to be seen. He then is then seen attacking the lady across the road. And she has no idea. She just thinks he's heading towards her. And we know that it's a walker. We know what's about to happen to this lady. But she is completely oblivious to it. Now, how many people in the early days would have been taken out like this because they had no idea what was going on? They're not expecting someone to start jumping on them and eating their face. I mean, who does? Who does expect that's going to happen? So we get this great build-up. Now, I wasn't fond of the first episode. I thought the first episode was a bit slow. I thought it kind of had this strange feeling to me where it took liberties that we already knew what was going on, but then felt that it had to spell certain things out to us that we already knew. There was a bit of a clumsiness with it, I kind of thought. But then as soon as I hit the second episode and went forward, I really enjoyed this whole season a lot more than I was expecting to.
Yeah, it's again. I think I feel almost the same way. I actually, like I said, I enjoyed the first episode. It definitely does not live up to the first episode of The Walking Dead. But I think that in its own little series there, I mean, I thought it was, for me, it was, I enjoyed it. I didn't mind all that stuff. And I think maybe it's because I look at it and I see it, kind of how, I guess maybe they thought it would look based on what it was saw. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm seeing it from like, I don't want to say a writer's perspective, but because I'm not a writer, but from a writer, or maybe a storytelling perspective, maybe like the Kevin Smith perspective of like that director's eye / writer's eye / editor's eye or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to call it, but there's something about like all the things that you hate about that first episode that I kind of dig. And I can, like, I don't see it as them necessarily treating the audience a certain way, but kind of treating their characters a certain way, and by that respect, we kind of are subjugated to it. So, I don't know. It didn't bother me. I can't put my thumb on it, but I'll tell you what did bother me is I feel that the first season, if I remember correctly, it ends with them getting on that boat, right?
Well, it ends with them in the house looking at the boat and see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So they're in the big house. We find out that Abigail, who has been name dropped a couple of times, is actually, because this guy keeps saying, "I need to get to Abigail. I need to get to Abigail." Abigail is the big yacht.
Yeah.
Boat thing.
For me, I think that it actually, it kind of moved a little too quickly, the season. And I don't know that, I don't think that I hate it for this reason. I think that, I think I would have stretched out the story a little bit, because you only have 6 episodes in this first season.
That's one of the things we should point out. It is a quick first season. It's only 6 episodes long. The pilot, if I remember properly, was about 90 minutes.
Yes, the pilot was 90 minutes long. The season was 6 episodes long, much like the original Walking Dead. That first season was only 6 episodes. And I feel like that they could have spent some more time maybe building up some character development, and I didn't notice the first, or I didn't remember at least until I started watching it a second go around, that there aren't many flashbacks, if any, in this season. And that's kind of like a huge thing that helped The Walking Dead in the beginning. The Walking Dead, I don't think does any flashbacks now, but seasons 1 and 2, if not going into 3, there were flashbacks in every episode, and each episode tended to be about a certain character and or focused on the character a little bit more, and they would have flashbacks to either pre apocalypse or just on the onset of the apocalypse, and that I think helped build up these characters. So that people who weren't fans of the comic book could have a relationship with them.
Yep.
And we don't get that with Nick or Travis or Nick's mom or Nick's sister. We don't get any of that.
Yeah, but these characters, we are kind of force fed that this is going to be a dysfunctional family. That is something that is rammed down our throats a little bit too harshly at times, and also. When we first came across Rick finding everyone else in Atlanta, and we were taken to the camp which they had, and here's some names we haven't heard for a while. We've got Dale, we've got Merle, we've got Glenn is the one who takes him there. Daryl's not there at the time. Carol and her husband are there. Andrea's there, I think, at the time as well.
Yep.
Straight away, this was a decent core group of characters. They were quite diverse. They were quite different from each other. Merle and Daryl were just straight out racist hicks at that time, but there was something about the abrasiveness of these characters that caused conflict. It caused tension. It wasn't just the problem with the Walkers. Straight away, a lot of these people didn't hit it off with each other. With this one, season 2 does change it a little bit, so I'm trying not to talk about season 2 at all. At the moment, I don't really care about any of these characters, yet they all survive until the end. This season surprised me in the fact that one of the hallmarks of The Walking Dead is no one is safe. Anyone can go at any particular time. Now, I know the threat is slightly smaller at the moment because we haven't reached full outbreak in season 1. But I didn't feel at any time that any of these characters were in any peril.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't. It seems like, and even when there were issues, it seemed like they were quickly able to be ready for it and adapt and take care of themselves, which is strange. Like, one of the things that I that from one of the episodes I saw today kind of bothered me was when Travis, Nick's kind of stepdad, takes it upon himself to go investigate that church, which seems like a very Rick thing to do. But he's not Rick. He's a teacher. He's not a cop. He doesn't have that instinct in him.
And even in the future, I don't know if it's the way that the actor plays him or the way that it's written right now. I can't see him being a Rick in the future.
No, and he's, obviously, he seems like he's supposed to be. At least, if you had to start kind of connecting dots to who these characters are equal to in the other show, I would say that, like, his dot leads to Rick as far as who we're supposed to, we're supposed to care about Rick, and he's supposed to be the main character in The Walking Dead. Seems like Travis is kind of that guy in this one.
I'll be interested to speak to you about season 2 then, but your mind on where the dot is leading from which character may end up surprising you a little bit.
Interesting. Yeah, because I, I'll tell you, being 3 episodes deep now, I think with the second viewing of season 1, it does. And I did leave. I remember watching the season finale, the first go around, and I was like, all right, I'll watch a second season of this. And there was something, I guess, and I don't really remember what, but the pilot or I keep calling it pilot, the premiere episode of season 2 for this, I was excited to watch, and we watched it, and it did not. I felt like I didn't enjoy it at all, and it turned me off from the series. And now, that being said, I people that I know that watch the show, both shows, they told me like, well, you should go back and give Fear season 2 a second chance because it does get better as the episodes go on. So I just never went back and gave it its fair shot. Never really had a reason to, because it's the one nice thing about The Walking Dead expanding their universe is that they're not interconnected in any way, at least not at the point that we are in season 1.
Well, their timelines are different. This is the other thing which we should mention as well, is when we hit season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead, we are still very early in season 1 of The Walking Dead. They're not running concurrently.
No,
this isn't a show that's happening at the same time. So there's no like, Rick isn't going to come wandering onto the scene, because we never saw that happen in season 2 or 3.
I would love to see. There's that, and I forget if he plays a role in episodes beyond. I think the 3rd one, but Tobias, I believe his name is, the kid with the knife in the school. He seems like a character that could survive, and purely not based off of like how he looks like. He just looks like he's kind of one of those like I have a bunch of people out here in Pennsylvania in the United States that have zombie outbreak patrol all over their cars because they're prepared. They're prepared for an actual zombie apocalypse. He seems like he's one of those cats. And I would love to see, like, I mean, I guess at this point it's years. So, I mean, in season 8 or 9 of The Walking Dead, I would love to see this character Tobias pop up. He's marched his way across the country, surviving, going from settlement to settlement, and he's ended up in Alexandria, seeking refuge.
Well,
I think that would be amazing.
The ages don't fit, but what if it turned out Tobias was Negan?
Oh my god! Yeah, it's a shame because the ages don't fit, but that would be. It would be cool if they could introduce a character like that in Fear the Walking Dead. That would be intriguing.
Yeah, it would be nice, but the timelines aren't there, and the space between these two characters. It's almost like they deliberately did these things so that they could say to people, "This is why these shows aren't going to cross over." Like, the times aren't right, and the space isn't right. But you've mentioned the season finale a couple of times now. I don't know if you remember. I mean, basically, one of the things with this season as well is, as I said, I enjoyed this season. I really did. But there was always a waiting for something to happen. There was always, because we're dealing with the military and everyone's in lockdown, and there wasn't a huge emphasis on urgency with this first season. But we hit the final episode. Now, I want to know if this is something you noticed as well. This is when I almost turned around, and if not often, I don't think ever during The Walking Dead, I've kind of had a laugh to myself because I kind of felt that something was a bit ridiculous. Was Nick and the Spanish lady were kidnapped. Now I can't remember her name. Yeah. But the husband is the central character in most of the season. Now they are trying to rescue these two people from the military / medical complex. they decide to do this, they release a horde of thousands of zombies upon the medical/military complex. And to rescue 2 people, they slaughter hundreds by releasing all of these zombies, all of these walkers onto this complex. Now, they release these zombies not just onto the military, but on a complex that is filled with doctors, nurses, sick women, men and children, people who are locked up under the complex in these wire cages because they're not ill enough yet to be in hospital beds. Now, the wife is already dead, so the only person that they're actually able to rescue is Nick. Hundreds of innocent people are deliberately slaughtered by walkers just so that these people can get to their own.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm gonna simply answer or comment on this with asking you a question, and that is, if it was Carl, what would Rick do?
I'm not sure if Rick would sick an arena full of walkers onto a hospital full of sick people. I think he would find another way.
I don't know. I
think someone would suggest it to him. I think someone would say, look, we could do this, but I think that Rick would find another way. Rather than killing doctors and nurses and sick people and children and old people and complete innocents, I think he would find a way to be able to do it. They slaughtered hundreds of people. Like there was absolutely no regard for anyone else in this complex.
Well,
there was none. There's no excuse for this at all. This was when I watched this, and the Mexican guy was walking towards the gate, and I saw those thousands of zombies that have been released from the arena walking behind him like the fucking Pied Piper of Hamelin. I just sat there and I laughed out loud, and I actually sat there and just went, "Oh, fuck off."
I personally think that there's a version of Rick that maybe not current day Rick. I think there's a one of those seasons of Rick that would have totally done this. I don't think current day Rick would have. I don't think season 1 or 2 Rick would have either, but I think somewhere in between there's a version of Rick that would absolutely slaughter everyone if it meant saving his family. But I think also that to counter, Rick wouldn't do it because, he's a good guy. He's also a cop. So I think I think that the benefit of having these characters who aren't, like, they're teachers and guidance counselors and barbers or something, that they don't have that mindset of let me think of the greater good here. I just want to save my own, because think about it with you and your own. Like, if it was your kid or my kid in there, I don't think I would give a damn about anyone else, including the doctors and nurses. If my kid was in there, I would unleash a holy hell upon that complex. If it meant a chance at saving my kid,
That's cold. That's cold, man. That's it. Yeah, I mean, looking at it that way, yeah, I would probably do it. But when I'm sitting here and I'm watching TV, it's late at night. I'm probably a little bit tired. I'm probably a little bit punch drunk, But when I see the Mexican Pied Piper of Hamelin come walk,
well, yeah, that's ridiculous.
I was waiting for him to pull out his little pipe and start playing it, so that that's the sound that the zombies were following or whatever. And, he just calmly... And he was so fucking calm about it as well. He just came up and walked around the corner, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they're like, "We'll shoot you, old man." And he's like, "Well, you better save your ammo." He even had one-liners set up. So as he was walking along, he was going, thinking in his head, and he's like, "Well, if they say this to me, I'm going to say this to them. I'll fucking show them. They've got my wife. I'm going to have a one-liner, It's like... It was just... I looked at that and just went, "Oh, fuck, they just wanted..." At some point in this season, they wanted to show the herd.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was like the idea was there. It's like, we've got to show the herd. And the idea was more important than how they pulled the idea off. But it was just, as a visual, I just went, no. Straight away I just clicked, you've just killed everyone in that camp. And you got people jumping on helicopters and getting the fuck out of there. You had this great thing where one guy got bitten and they wouldn't let him on a helicopter, and he must have known he was screwed, so he ran straight into the rotor blade at the back of a chopper. So it was a great set piece, but it just, as I said, it's out of all of the Walking Dead moments, I think this is the one I've shaken my head at the most.
I don't know that that's necessarily a wrong thing to say. I think that's a pretty accurate statement. I think the execution of what they were trying to do was a little silly. I think on paper it probably looked a lot better, but I think the reasoning that the characters were doing it, I don't think that's unjustified at all, and I don't think it makes them ruthless killers. I think it was just the execution of how production decided to do it may have been a little off.
They're ruthless killers, man. But there's no way that at some point they didn't have the conversation where someone said, well, everyone in that place is going to die. Someone would have brought that up. Someone would have said, everyone else in that place is going to die, and they would have just gone, whatever.
And I haven't gotten to that point yet, obviously, so I'm not sure if it allows it, if there's anything that allows an off-screen conversation to happen, but that could have been an off-screen conversation, if the story allowed any kind of lapse in time to make it happen.
But they knew there was this arena full of walkers, because the army guy who they had tied up and the barber was torturing told them, this is where we just barred the doors. And so at one point someone turned around and said, all of those dead people, we can use them as a weapon and we can slaughter every single man, woman and child in that complex. And not one of them turned around at the voice of reason and said, maybe we could find another way. No, this is it. This is the only option. We have this option and that's it. We have to kill all of them. We need to make them pay. They've already, in one season, they've already leapt to, and I know the Rick you're talking about, the bloodthirsty Rick, who has lost, but by that stage, he had lost everything. He'd lost his wife, he'd lost his world, he'd started to lose his mind, he was starting to lose the respect of the people around him. He could see everything slipping away. These people reached that point living in their own homes. Fair enough, there was a fence there, but they were living in their own homes in relative safety, and in that small space of time, they just went, fuck it, kill everyone.
Well, and like I said, I think that's one of my problems with this season. Is as much as I enjoyed the first season of Fear, there was character development and pacing issues. I think that they should have. There's no reason, and maybe it would have been hard to do flashbacks because this is happening at the start of it. So maybe flashback. No one wants to know what these characters were like, before this moment. But you don't need. I mean, The Walking Dead has proved that you don't need flashbacks to tell a good story because they no longer use flashbacks, or if they do, it's on the very rare occasion. I don't think I've seen one at all in season 7.
But we're flashing back to Walking Dead stuff when Sasha was in the coffin, and she flashed.
Oh yeah,
but that was the first one we'd had in a long, long time.
Yes, and that was totally warranted. Like that one made a lot of sense.
Oh, that was that was part of an amazing story, and that flashback, helped make that story amazing.
Absolutely, and as like I said, Fear the Walking Dead just I think suffers at least up until the end of season 1 and for me the season premiere of season 2, from what I've watched in the past or as of today, it just suffers from the ability to make you care, and I think that the pacing issues could have solved that. Like, I don't know that they should have even seen the boat by the end of this season. I don't know that I would like to see if maybe, and I'm saying this now without seeing, a recent memory of episodes, we'll say 4 and on, but I would have liked to seen maybe, this season end with the town getting quarantined and giving them that ability for 6 episodes to tell this story about the true beginnings, the true early days of this zombie apocalypse, and develop these characters a little more. I guess technically Nick is actually pretty fleshed out by even episode 3. Like, we know who he is as a character, but he might be one of the only ones that we truly know by the end of this season.
Well, touching on the characters, I found myself enjoying Madison, the mother. I thought that she was pretty decent. Travis really didn't do much for me, the stepdad. I didn't like Nick in the first episode at all. Maybe that was planned that way. But by the end of the season, he was him, and I wish I could remember his name, the Mexican barber, were my two favorite.
I think his name is, and I could be way off, but Dan Zalazar or something like that. I think I'm way off.
That sounds like a made up name. That sounds like you just made that name up. That sounds like the name of a baby on Maury Povich.
I could be making that up.
This is my child, Dan Salazar. And this is my other child, Shanika.
But I'm telling you, like, here's the problem.
Hang on a sec. Oh, you're saying his full name, Dan, as in Daniel Salazar. I thought you were saying that was his first name, that his first name was Dan Salazar.
No, his full name is Daniel.
It's Daniel. It's Daniel.
Yeah.
Now,
but
honestly, man, it sounded like you'd made a name up. That's going to be my wrestling name, the Incredible Dan Salazar.
Yes, I endorse that wrestling.
And I'm going to come out to Why Can't We Be Friends by War. So
there you go. I dig it.
But they're really the two characters that I really, by the end of the season, that I was on board with.
But and I think that right there almost kind of proves one of the issues with these characters is that until I butchered his name, you didn't remember what one of your favorite characters of this series is at the end of the season, and that would never have happened, I think, with The Walking Dead, despite the fact that we forgot Kevin John and Kevin John's little brother's names in season 7 of The Walking Dead.
But with all fairness, by that stage, we had 15, 16 characters on the screen.
Yeah.
So this stage we've got, I think, 7, and we can remember half of their names. Now, the only reason I remember Chris's name, the stepson / Travis's son, is I didn't care for that character at all. I was waiting for him to get taken out. I didn't. He was just a whiny little, he just bothered me. He's baggage. He's dead weight. Just get rid of him. Write him out.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that, and obviously having only 6 episodes hurts. I mean, you have to figure out what you want to do. Some people think that shortening up seasons is helpful. I think 6 is too little. I think 22 is too much. I think Walking Dead has found a pretty good place with 16. They could probably knock that down to 13, and it would be an even stronger, I think, series. And I think that's what season 2 and 3 of Fear is. It's like 13 episodes long or something like that. But it's so maybe they do 14 episodes, but like that seems like a pretty tight, that's even shortening it by 2 episodes compared to what The Walking Dead does might make all the difference in the world. And then increasing it by a little bit more than double is definitely it's allowing you to tell those stories, over a longer distance. So I understand why they probably did what they did with only having 6 episodes. But me personally, I probably would have told that story a little differently. I probably would have fleshed out some things, pushed some things off to season 2. And instead of seeing Abigail at the end of the season, maybe you get to that dude's mansion at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And even if you cut that, that little bit out, that might be enough to help flesh this season out some more. Again, I think I personally would have liked to explore more of what was going on pre-quarantine and also post-quarantine. There was very little time spent in quarantine, I think.
I thought that maybe what we might get now, I do want to go out and say, I know I've said some things about this season that I didn't like, but there were a lot of positives to it. This is a really well made show. It's got a different look to The Walking Dead as well. It's not trying to ride on the coattails necessarily in the way it looks. They also haven't got turned around and given you a show where you go, okay, well, that's Rick, that's Daryl, that's Merle, that's Dale. While the character development, I 100% agree with you, wasn't there, they didn't try and fall upon making a group that was exactly the same as The Walking Dead. But I was honestly thinking that this season I was going to see a lot more of what was happening in the inner workings of the city as civilization started to crumble, not inside a small locked-down suburb.
I think I would have enjoyed that as well. I think it's, like I said, I think there's things that I would have done differently. Maybe they would have done differently now that it's been, in hindsight. I think it was a great introduction to a new chapter of The Walking Dead. And it may not have. So it kind of was the opposite of season 1 of The Walking Dead, where it didn't start as strong as The Walking Dead, but I think it ended a little bit stronger than The Walking Dead, because I hated the season 1 finale of The Walking Dead. I thought it should have, like, the episode 5 felt like a better season ending than episode 6 of that first season of The Walking Dead. But I feel like Fear ended a pretty good way, comparatively. I would have changed things around. I would have stretched the story out. But that's not what we got. At the end of the day, we got what we got, and I liked it. It's just not as, if you let it go, any of those episodes go, and you stop caring about that show like I did, it doesn't hurt to let go of that show. Like The Walking Dead, I missed 2 or 3 weeks, I get frantic about it. Fear the Walking Dead, I let a whole season go by.
I was even going to say to you, like, you've mentioned you're only three episodes into rewatching. Having only just recently watched it for the first time, I would even go so far as to say, just start on season 2. The back end of it, you already know what's happened. There's nothing. I don't think that there's anything you'll go back and say, oh, I missed this, or I didn't notice that the first time, except maybe the massacre of the medical facility. You might want to have a second look at that. I don't want to say it's unimportant, because to tell you the truth, if there was no Walking Dead and this was a brand new show that was unrelated and we weren't drawing the comparisons, I probably really, really would have enjoyed it a lot more than I did. It was strong enough for me to go, okay, well, I'm going to jump into season 2, and hopefully season 2 will be a bit stronger. We'll hopefully get a little bit more, like you were saying, with the character development. That was one of the things I'm hoping for. And I'm hoping to see a lot more of the breakdown of civilization, because we missed all that while Rick was in the hospital bed. Yeah,
and I think that was what I said. It kind of, that goes all the way back to my pacing issues. I think they should have explored that a little bit more. I think they should be taking their time, because, based off what I saw in season 1, and I think I kind of remember saying this, is like, well, I mean, if they keep taking this pace, they're going to catch up to The Walking Dead in no time, because they're literally just kind of like breezing through what seems like, should have taken longer for things to start to fall apart. Like I said, that's probably my only complaint of the season. I don't think I have a complaint with individual episodes necessarily. None of them are as good as The Walking Dead, really, but none of them are as bad as Oceanside. So, you can't. There's really nothing too major to complain about. It was, I think, a good first season of a new show that takes place in the same universe as a popular show, and. It was able to keep my attention and want more. For me, I had to wait a couple months to get to season 2, and I was excited to wait for it. And unfortunately, just whatever that premiere episode was for season 2 wasn't able to sell me enough to keep watching. I needed a podcast for that.
You haven't gone back and rewatched the pilot for season 2 yet, have you?
No, not yet.
So at the end of the finale, it discovered that Chris's real mum has been bitten. Mm-hmm. And she asks if she can be shot and taken out.
Yes.
And that is basically where that episode ends. Now, the pilot for season 2 starts with them making their way to the boat as the city is burning. The zombies are making their way through the mansion. They busted through the mansion. There's fires on the beach. Now, I don't know how a beach catches fire. This is something which you're going to need to explain to me when you go back and watch it. But there is fires on the beach. And the mother is there, who was shot at the end of the first season. She is still in perfect physical condition. There's no decomposition of the body. There's no anything like that. So it looks like it's only been a few hours since the end of the finale for season 1 and the beginning of season 2. But the thing which I noticed is kind of the complaint which you've had with the pacing and the speed that everything crumbles and falls and goes down, is it is just exaggerated exponentially between the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2, where literally everything goes to shit within a couple of hours, because the mother's dead body is a marker, really, for how long it's been.
Yeah.
There would be some decomposing. Everything went south within the space of the afternoon that they got there and the night that they're leaving for the boat.
Yeah, and I think that's just, they have a story that they want to tell, and they, there's an established kind of timeline that already exists for these walkers, whether we've seen that timeline or not. So they needed to, I think, hurry things up so they can be where they want to be. Like I said, I would have done something differently. I don't know that I would have wanted to race through all that. I may, but I'm a story guy. I'm a dialogue guy. I want to see all that stuff. I don't know that. I think with this show, they had a fear of it not doing well, and they wanted to get to the zombie action right away versus, developing.
It's a good season. I would say to people, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, watch it. But don't expect episodes of the level... I can't remember what the name of the episode was, but remember when they covered themselves in the dead zombies and walked through the guts, and then it started raining and the guts started coming off them, and don't expect anything to the height of that.
Yeah.
Like that, for me, that's still one of the benchmarks of the first season.
Okay, yeah.
That particular episode, that's the one which my mind goes back to almost every time. First of all, there's nothing that even approaches those heights. But if you go into it with not low expectations, but the expectation that this show is a little bit more... I think they're trying to be a little bit more arty with it. I think they're trying to be a bit more... they're trying to go for a completely different style.
Yeah.
So if you're expecting The Walking Dead, you'll be disappointed.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think that's like a pretty perfect way to sum up season 1. Yeah, I'm going to keep saying that it was a good entry point. I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about it. No, and I agree with that. Like I said, by the time that first season ended, I was excited to see what season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead would look like. But I think the time that it took to get to season 2, and then the entry point that we had underperformed for me in that initial viewing, and that's why I didn't really care for it after that. We'll see what happens in when we finally sit down to record season 2, so we can hopefully get more caught up. But I'm glad I have an excuse to watch it now, because I've always said I'm going to go back and watch it. And I just haven't yet, and so I'm glad that I get the opportunity to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and then once we've done season 2, we're going to be jumping into weekly episodes of season 3.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, from the promotional images that I've seen, which I'm trying to avoid it, but it looks kind of cool, and obviously I know at least one character who makes it through season 2, but I'm excited to see what happens with this show, and see if it can hold a candle in season 2 to the original.
All right, well, let's see what we think of season 2 next time we chat about it.
Yes, and with that, because I'm getting dry throat, that's what I'm getting. God damn. Make sure you let us know your thoughts on Fear of the Walking Dead season 1. What you thought about it when it first aired. If you've gone back and rewatched it, what you think the second go around or third go around. You can do that several different ways. You can call and leave us a voicemail at 267-223-4965. You can leave an email with us by sending an email to zombcast@crudehammerstudios.com. You can Twitter us at the Zombcast or Facebook us at the Zombcast. But truly, what we really want are pictures of zombies riding dogs. This is wrestler Kev riding dogs riding zombies, whatever variations of those that you want to see, we want to see, and you can snail mail them to us at the Zombcast at P.O. Box 177 in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania 19030, United States of America. You can also find us on the That's Entertainment Podcast Network at thatentertains.com/network. Steve, where can they find you on the interwebs?
The best place to find me is on Twitter. You can find me at the Detention Pod on Twitter. That's the main page for the other podcast, which is the Saturday Detention Podcast, which you can also find at thatentertains.com. And apart from that, you can usually find me outside medical facilities protesting the unneeded slaughter of women, children, doctors, and nurses.
And on that note, you can find me on Twitter at thatnerdykev. I am going to go to sleep, so take care, everyone. This has been, for the Zombcast, I'm Kev.
And I've been Steve.
And just remember to keep walking. Is that our sign off? Keep walking. Keep walking, stay dead, whatever you want to do, guys. We're equal opportunists here.
Yeah, Fear Walking.
Oh yeah, it's a new show now. It's Walking Dead is Keep Walking, so Fear the Walk. Yeah, so Fear the Dead. There we go.
This has been a That's Entertainment Podcast Network podcast. Looking for more podcasts about pop culture, TV and film, and other entertainment? Find all our shows on thatentertains.com/network.
Thank you for listening to the Court and Parts Podcast Network. To listen to more Court and Parts shows, visit courtandarts.com.